Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to pick up on a few of the motivations behind the scenes or in front of the scenes for what is happening right now with Brexit. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So people seem to want to identify a grand conspiracy that explains the reason for this massive self-defeating act. I get asked quite a lot, what is the reason behind Brexit? What have all these people got in common? What are they really trying to achieve? But I think that line of thinking is to mistake those behind Brexit as working together for a common goal. A lot of people can't believe that anything this huge hasn't been engineered and planned well in advance. But it's not quite the case. Yes, there have been people working towards this end for a very long time. But there are lots of motivations from lots of people who have influenced the process. So Boris Johnson, for example, he just wanted to be Prime Minister. That's it. He thought that backing Remain at one point would have been more likely to realise that ambition. Then he changed his mind. Had he remained of the view that being a Remainer would have helped that ambition, which I think it would have done, then that is what he'd have done. Indeed, for many years, right up until the event of the Brexit campaign itself, he ridiculed the idea of leaving the EU. But he became convinced of the political acumen of Michael Gove and the strategic brilliance of Dominic Cummings. Join us and you'll rule all, they said. And so he did. Blind ambition drove him. Then there's Michael Gove himself. Now, he may have any number of motivations. Somebody recently brought to my attention an essay he wrote attacking the Good Friday Agreement many years ago. He called it a moral stain, a humiliation, a denial of our national integrity. And now look where we are. We're going to get ready to rip up the part of the withdrawal agreement that guarantees the Northern Ireland peace process. The DUP in Northern Ireland are eager to vote through this monstrous bill. They also hated the peace process. They hated the Good Friday Agreement. They would like nothing more than for that agreement to be burnt to ash. So last year they felt betrayed by Boris Johnson when he negotiated the Northern Ireland Protocol, because it would mean that Northern Ireland would remain aligned with the rest of Ireland but diverge from Great Britain. Well, that can only move it closer towards reunification with Ireland. Now they appreciate what seems to be happening. Well, if this comes to pass, then the hard border, which has to be somewhere, will return to inside Ireland rather than between Ireland and Great Britain. And the peace process upon which the Good Friday Agreement is based will fail. That's their motivation for this. A hatred for their own people drives them. But Michael Gove. So Conservatives are currently performing impressive intellectual gymnastics in order to justify the abandonment of the rule of law. They are trying to delude themselves that this is all a hardball negotiating strategy designed to get the EU to agree to the Canada-style deal that they don't even understand themselves. The line at the moment is, yes, this bill could be used to break international law, but that doesn't mean to say that we will. That's the line they're trying to use to get their MPs to vote for it. They are saying that there will be no threat to Irish peace. They are asking their MPs to vote through a bill that could lead to a breach of the Good Friday Agreement, a return to violence, but that won't actually happen. Yes, putting this in place means that it could, but of course it won't. It's just a coincidence that the man who was supposed to be opposed to the hard-won peace in Ireland is now driving our Brexit. It's all a massive coincidence. That's what we've been asked to believe, because that's Michael Gove's role, not Boris Johnson. Yes, Boris Johnson has said on a couple of occasions that he is taking personal control of Brexit, but he never has. He's had a couple of meetings with the EU Commission President, but it is Michael Gove who is the member of the government who meets on a regular basis with EU officials. It's Michael Gove who has dragged his feet on implementing the physical infrastructure required of the Northern Ireland Protocol. He wants to take us back to the time before the peace process. And he sees Brexit as a way of doing this. Now, as a teacher, I remember when he was Education Secretary. He had the same sort of motivation. He changed completely the way that qualifications were delivered to our 16 and 18-year-olds, in terms of how they were assessed. Against the strongest advice from schools, colleges and universities. He did it for no other reason than he wanted to roll back to an older way of doing things. Well, this is how it was when I was at school, and obviously when I was at school everything was marvellous, so that's what we should do. And that's his motivation for Brexit. He's driven by nostalgia, nothing more than that. You know, perhaps he'll be happy when we've returned to the Stone Age. Then there's Dominic Cummings. So this is a man who appreciates genius, which is good. Someone who appreciates genius, absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, so much does he admire otherworldly intelligence that he himself believes that he is a proponent of it. Now, that in itself wouldn't be so terrible. Lots of people are not good judges of their own levels of intelligence, which means some people may not realise how intelligent they are. Some people think they're more intelligent than they really are. That's just the way of it. I can't tell you how many times some of my less able students as a school teacher have sought to try and tell me the most ridiculous lies, thinking that I was as thick as they are, as if their deceit was pure genius that nobody could possibly see through. Now, the problem with Dominic Cummings is not Dominic Cummings thinking Dominic Cummings is really clever as such. It's all the Conservative enablers who believe the hype. And to begin with, why not? After all, he was the brains behind Vote Leave, which is the official Leave campaign. And Brexit won. Unfortunately, what some of them fail to realise is that the Leave campaign won in conjunction with other very well-funded campaigns, and Cummings' input was really just to hire very clever but immoral people to abuse personal data and take advantage of the well-established rules of populism. But how do these Conservatives still think he's a genius? Because nothing he has done in government has actually worked. Even Boris Johnson's Brexit couldn't possibly have happened if opposition leaders kept turning down the taunts for a general election, which they initially were doing. If only they had held firm throughout instead of getting carried away with dreams of glory, we'd have had the people's vote firmly established now. Opinion in Parliament was already getting to the point where, look, we're at a deadlock. We cannot keep in this stalemate forever. There were more and more MPs going, do you know what? A people's vote is the only way to get through this. That is... The pandemic, of course, may have delayed its implementation. Were it not for COVID, I've said under that circumstance, we would now have already had it. But it would be happening. So that achievement was not down to his tactical brilliance, but down to the bafflingly dumb behaviour of others. Everything since has completely flopped. His idea of herd immunity without a vaccine went tits up pretty quickly. The exams fiasco, the testing system, the tracing programme, all of it was his idea. This Operation Moonshot is his idea. His savagery against the civil service is losing us our most experienced and able officials. This compounds our problems even more because now, not only do we have the wrong policies in place, but we don't even have an effective civil service to make the best of a bad job. And then there's that Operation Moonshot I've just talked about. £100 billion is earmarked for this. We're going to do what no other country in the world has even dreamed of doing, with technology that doesn't exist, raw materials which may be unobtainable, and this is all according to the government, and we're going to do it before Christmas. And they still think Cummings is a genius. He's a madman. You know, for Cummings, Brexit was not about sovereignty, wealth, or, bringing war to Ireland. It was just a way of pointing to something on his deathbed and saying, I did that, before he finally croaks. Vanity is what's driving him. He wants to leave a mark. Then there are those who saw an opportunity to make out like bandits. So every time the government even announces something that's going to devastate our economy, usually involving Brexit, the pound drops in value against other major currencies. Hundreds of people have been shorting the pound and making billions over the years. It is credibly believed that some are given advance notice of these announcements from the government in order to more accurately maximise their profits. And we also know that many of these same people, through their investments, are betting the farm on a no-deal Brexit at the end of this year. They're convinced. What is not known is how much control they have over the government. Obviously, they're betting so much that they believe that they are still in control. If they are still calling the shots, then a no deal, of course, is absolutely certain. 2020 is already going to be a bumper year for these people, these disaster capitalists whose wealth increases as that of the UK diminishes. People already have enough money to live whatever life they please, still want more. Obviously, the motivation for these people is greed, avarice, simple. Then there's the good old-fashioned racists like Nigel Farage. Their tribalism is so absolute that they cannot stand around being near anyone who isn't exactly like them in their image. Like the DUP, he and his kind are driven by hatred of their own kind. Or Aaron Banks, like the Dark Knight's Joker. He just wants to watch the world burn. He's like a child with a magnifying glass and a load of ants. He gets nothing from it, though it does him no harm. He enjoys the power of inflicting misery on a whim. I did this, he'll tell himself. I could have battered for the national interest and then Brexit wouldn't have won. I made the difference. I am the difference. The way this country is going to be for decades now is because of my whim. Malice is what motivates him. And those are just the motivations from our homegrown nutters, to say nothing of the motivations from external ideological enemies as well. So I think when people look for the motivation behind Brexit, it is myriad. All of the various players who pushed for Brexit didn't work together because they want the same thing. They just saw Brexit as the vehicle to deliver the very different things they all wanted. An uneasy alliance that will fracture whenever one party isn't getting what they want from it. And this is why Brexit has remained so nebulous in concept, because proponents of it, try to argue that it can be everything at once. It can be all of these things, even contradictory things. Last year, Boris Johnson's withdrawal agreement was a brilliant deal for Britain and the only way to keep the UK together. He sacked Conservative MPs who opposed it. Now, the only way to save the UK is to tear it up. And he will sack any Conservative MP, I've no doubt, who will seek to preserve it. He'll certainly threaten to do so. Because the thing about Brexit is that once it becomes real, it's obvious that it isn't everything that everyone wanted from it. And for all the games still continuing, at the end of this year, Brexit is going to have to meet reality. It ceases to be a concept. It ceases to be something on its way. At the end of 2020, it becomes reality. And what we'll then see is all those different motivations turn on one another, because not all of them will get what they wanted Brexit to deliver. Because Brexit can't deliver them all. But anyway, those are my thoughts on the issue. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.